Let's talk about the debasement trade. Everybody's been talking about this recently, so in this video, we're going to break down what the debasement trade is and what it means for investments like Bitcoin, gold, and the US dollar. Before we get started, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube. Really appreciate your support. I'm also going to put a QR code down below for a Bitcoin tip, so if you want to support the channel, feel free to leave me a little tip. Now let's get into it. The debasement trade is something that people in the Bitcoin community have been familiar with for a very long time, but we've recently seen this term, the debasement trade, trending because we saw JP Chase come out and kind of recoin the term. Now, what this debasement trade is referring to is this trade out of the dollar, out of government money, and into hard money like Bitcoin, gold, and silver. We've seen Bitcoin, gold, and silver moving higher this year, and I think that really the moves that have caught everyone's attention are these moves in gold and silver, which have kind of moved up an unprecedented amount compared to history. So this has really got the attention of the traditional finance world. Now, one thing that I saw with this article about the debasement trade is that JP Chase also came out and gave a year-end price prediction for Bitcoin of $165,000, which is pretty bullish. We're currently sitting around $120,000, so that's a big move, and I actually made a Bitcoin year-end price prediction video, so you should go and check that out on my channel if you want to see what I think, where I think the Bitcoin price is going. But to have JP Chase really flip from their stance just a little bit ago and become bullish on Bitcoin is great. We saw back in 2017 that JP Chase CEO Jamie Dimon basically shunned Bitcoin, calling it a fraud, calling it worthless. So to see JP Chase, as well as a lot of these other traditional finance institutions coming around on Bitcoin, I think it's great, and it's going to be great for the Bitcoin price. So why are people moving out of the dollar and into hard money? It's no secret. The dollar and other fiat currencies are losing value, and they're losing value faster and faster. The main reason that they're losing their value is because the supply keeps going up, right? We've seen the money supply really expand when we look at the dollar. We've also seen the national debt here in the United States grow a lot. We're up above $37 trillion looking at the national debt, and this has led to a lot of people being less comfortable holding treasury bonds, which are really like the backbone of the dollar system. People don't want to buy 20-year, 30-year treasury bonds because they don't know what the value of the dollar is going to look like in 20 to 30 years, and I don't think it's going to look good. I don't even know if the dollar will be around by then. Let's go ahead and take a look at a little chart which shows the M2 money supply. This is a chart that I use pretty often, but as you can see here, since 1970, around the time when we went off the gold standard, we have really seen the money supply just take off, and this is a main reason why most assets just continue to rise, right? As the money supply rises, these assets get priced higher in dollar terms. But the more we see the money supply rise, the more we see the national debt rise, the more people start to say, what's going on here, right? Do I really trust this system where the money is losing its value? And they look for alternatives. So right now we're seeing these assets like Bitcoin, gold, and silver take off because these assets have a limited supply, or in the case of Bitcoin, a fixed supply. So people are looking for real money, right? They're looking for a real store of value, and the dollar just doesn't fulfill that role of money. So it's no surprise to me that we're seeing these assets take off here in tandem, but I think it's definitely a warning about the fragility of this existing dollar system. And I actually just made a video talking about gold's rally and what it means for the dollar, the warning it's sending us. So you should definitely check out that video if you haven't already. But no surprise to me that we're seeing people move into hard money. Now let's talk about the performance of some of these store of value assets this year. Bitcoin is up around 30% year to date, which is great. I'll take it. I think that a lot of people were expecting that Bitcoin would be up a lot more by now, just with this new administration coming in with all the Bitcoin demand. But 30% is not bad. And so far in Q4, we have been moving up higher. So I expect that to continue. Really, the assets that have stolen the spotlight are gold and silver. Gold is up around 50% year to date, and silver is up around 65% year to date. Silver just broke above $50 per ounce, and gold just broke above $4,000 per ounce. So this is really astonishing. We typically don't see these assets in gold and silver moving like this, and we can actually go ahead and take a look at a chart of the gold price over the past 5 years. And as you can see, right around the time we got to 2024, gold started moving differently. And really, what this is signaling to me is that people are not comfortable with the dollar system. They're not comfortable with government debt. I think we're seeing a lot of countries and central banks moving out of dollar assets and into gold, probably moving into silver a little bit as well. So if we were to look at the silver chart, it would look pretty much the same as this. I'm not going to show it, but both of these assets are up over 100% over the past 5 years, and it's just pretty remarkable. Now, will gold and silver continue to outperform Bitcoin? Looking at this year, they might, right? We just talked about how both gold and silver have appreciated more than Bitcoin year to date. But looking at the long term, when we look at store value assets, these assets are competing against each other. When people decide to move out of the dollar, to move out of US Treasury bonds or out of other fiat currencies, they have a choice to make. Which store of value asset do I want to move into? And over the long term, I think that people are going to move into the best store of value asset, which is Bitcoin. Now, as the dollar continues to depreciate, I think that we will see all three of these assets move higher in dollar terms, right? People are just going to be looking for a place to escape, and they're going to look at these hard money assets. But over the long term, I think that people are going to funnel into Bitcoin as it's just better money, right? It has a higher stock to flow ratio than gold and silver. It's a little bit easier to deal with here in this internet era, right? It's very portable. It's easy to protect. So I think that Bitcoin is going to be the winner over the long term. And I do think that Bitcoin still has a chance to outperform gold and silver this year if Bitcoin has a great Q4, and it historically has had great Q4s. And one thing that may push Bitcoin above gold and silver this year is if we see a ton of Bitcoin ETF inflows. And I actually saw that Bitwise, a popular crypto asset manager, is predicting that we're going to see higher Q4 Bitcoin ETF inflows this year compared to last year, which would be very bullish for Bitcoin. Think about the end of last year. We had Trump win the election, and we saw Bitcoin take off to end the year. So if we were to see more inflows in this Q4, just think about what that could mean for the Bitcoin price. Let's go ahead and take a look at a little chart here, which compares the gold versus Bitcoin ETF inflows, comparing the first couple of years of these ETFs. Obviously, these spot Bitcoin ETFs are very new compared to gold ETFs, which have been around for a while. But as we can see in this chart, Bitcoin ETFs have already been outperforming gold compared to the first couple of years. And in the second year, we haven't seen as many inflows as the first year, but we're getting close, right? If we do have a big Q4, we could get close to having the same amount of inflows as 2024, and that would be very bullish for Bitcoin. To wrap it up here, the debasement trade makes a lot of sense to me. I'm not surprised to see people and entities wanting to move out of the dollar system and back into hard money. I think we are moving towards a hard money system. I think that we're moving towards a Bitcoin standard because Bitcoin is the best neutral reserve out there for this internet era that we're moving into. And And really, when we think about Bitcoin, Bitcoin has been the debasement trade for a long time here, right? This is what people in the Bitcoin community preach, right? That the dollar is just going to continue to lose its value, and you want to move into a money that's going to store your value, right? A money that's going to keep your value and build wealth over time, and that's what Bitcoin is. That's going to be it for this one. If you didn't like and subscribe, please make sure to do that now. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon.